Hey, what is good, Rock Nation? So, I've got a really interesting philosophical question that popped up right here in my comment section. Okay. We're going to be diving into morality, ethics, and what defines evil. Okay. They asked some high level, very controversial questions. We're talking about are doctors who perform abortions evil? Priests who kill murderers? Executioners, and even the QB from Madoka Magica, are these people or entities evil? Before I answer these, we need to establish some ground rules. Before we get into the ground rules, I want to talk to you guys about where this topic came from. I made a video in reference to the anime Tekkappi's Original Sin, where I was talking about children potentially being evil. A lot of people wanted to challenge my usage of the word evil and try to explain to me that kids shouldn't be evil, or kids cannot be evil because they are kids. I used the definition of the word evil, and people kept saying things like, "Well, I think evil means," and my problem with people is it doesn't really matter what you think evil means. What matters is what does the dictionary say it means. Okay, we need an authority that we have authorities, dictionaries, that we rely on for the meaning of words. And it's very important that it's not up to you and me and me and me to have these different definitions. It's one thing to have different interpretations. It's another to have different definitions. We're going to get into those definitions and we're going to get into interpretations. I don't want to go off on a tangent. If I say bring the car over here and you say bring this and you bring the scooter, I say bring the car, you bring the scooter, it's not really up to you, right, to determine that a car now means scooter because that's what you feel scooter means. No, a car is typically a engine that has four wheels. A vehicle with four wheels with the motor probably is what's going to say in the dictionary. At least try to use the dictionary definition. So, anyways, let us get into the topic. We're going to discuss morality. We're going to discuss evil. We're going to really break down this type of comment that I have in this video. And I think if you guys leave comments like this, you have a high chance of being featured on this channel because I really like when people are trying to be different. And I also like when people understand what the criteria is as they're commenting and adding value into this community because I actually like these types of debates and such. But anyways, like I said, let's get into it. So first we have to define evil, right? So let's refer to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, okay? The fact of suffering, misfortune, wrongdoing, a morally reprehensible act or behavior. I can't pronounce nothing past that facetious. Shout out to Kanye. Something that brings sorrow, distress, or calamity. Great calamities. Shout out to my girl Cassandra from Don Machi. We have the Oxford English Dictionary. Morally wrong or bad behavior, wickedness. A force or principle seen as exerting destructive or harmful influence. A harmful or undesirable thing. The definition of the word is very black and white. The nuances come from things like defining things as immoral, wickedness, bad behavior. These are the parts that vary among individuals, societies, and cultures. And I'm going to give you a simple answer to each question, and I'll also give you the nuanced answer in regards to what Resolute Dreamer talked about. You see, this is very black and white. So when we talk about is a child evil, according to the dictionary, and let me actually rephrase it. I actually don't care if you think children are evil or can be evil or not. I actually don't care. What got me passionate about is when I said a child was evil, and then you're like, you're wrong, that child can't be evil because here's what I think evil means. I'm like, no. When I said the child is evil, I'm using a dictionary. So you can't say that I'm wrong based on your personal criteria for what you think evil should mean. No. You just have to be like, well, I don't respect the way the definition describes evil, but I know you're using a dictionary term, I know more than likely you're going by the dictionary, or because I know what the dictionary says, I can't even call you wrong. You see, those are the types of things that drove me mad in the original video. Now, coming back to it, you can debate my usage of evil by saying things like, so the fact of suffering, misfortune, or wrongdoing, you can challenge wrongdoing, right? You can say that wasn't morally bad, you know? You can do things like that when we're talking about a child being evil or not being evil. But you can't, but nothing in the definition refers to age. And that's just that. You could say, well, in China or well, in Japan or whatever, well, we're speaking English. Evil is, I speak English, so I say evil, and according to English, this is what it means. Now, let's go on to these scenarios. I don't want to spend too much time here, okay? The first scenario, okay? We can issue a timestamp here, Resolute Dreamer. I saw you did time stamps on the previous video. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm going to switch back to here. Okay. So the first question is, you can see it pulled up on the screen from Resolute. A doctor who performs abortions, is that evil? Simple answer. The answer depends entirely on whether or not you classify a fetus as a baby or not, which is why pro-choice narrative emphasizes using the word fetus. Remember, we discussed bad behavior and immoral choices as part of the definition of attached to evil. These vary from nation to nation. In the case of the United States, as a society, we haven't agreed on this topic. So I cannot classify the procedure of abortion as evil or not. Our society is still working on it. But I do classify murdering babies as evil. And you take that as you wish. But you see, these are these questions are all going to be very gray. And I don't know if there's going to be a black or white answer to that. But he challenged me, and I'm just going to give my answers and then share my thoughts. But I hope you guys narrow in on, it's not just answering, because I expect you to have different answers as well. But it's about applying your rationale, applying your definition of the word evil, and then trying to use logic in your answer without getting all up into our emotions and getting up to our feelings. The next question he asked is a doctor who performs euthanasia. Okay, this is still question number one, but these are going to be parts to the same question. I think euthanasia is another scenario where our society doesn't necessarily agree, and there's nuance. Is a person suffering? Do they dislike life? In most cases, so as long as a person is competent and seeks to be euthanized, then I do not consider the doctor evil. This is a topic where we have to confront. This is a topic where we do not have to confront it very often as a society. I think the majority of our Christian society, I should say this. I think the majority of our non-Christian society or faith-based society will not classify. Actually, my sentence is funky, so I'm just going to go off the dome. I think in most cases, our Christian population, our heavily conservative religious population, they are going to say that euthanasia is immoral. It is not up to man to decide when we go. It's going to be up to God. Okay? So they're going to say it's immoral. So once you say that euthanasia or taking yourself out or assisted S word, because I can't say it for YouTube purposes, if you say that it's immoral, then of course you're going to think that it's evil. But for the rest of people who may not have a faith-based concept when it comes to morality, if you're suffering and you're ready to go, that choice is up to you. So this is another scenario where you might say I'm being a cheap, but at least I'm explaining to you why I personally can't call it evil or not evil. So I don't have an opinion, but I can tell you how I would look at it. My father is a pastor, but I am no longer super religious. So even myself, most of my morality and ethics is founded on the fact that I'm Christian or raised was Christian, and God told me to believe this way. But now, it's not that I don't believe in a higher being. That is certainly not the case, and it's not that I even reject the Bible. It's just that I need to have my own the stage of life I'm in is I need to have my own convictions and things I believe, not because my parents told me. So I'm just on a personal journey at this stage in my life. The next one we're going to jump into, before we jump into question number 2, is a public executioner. Are they evil? And my answer is, as it relates to the United States of America, I would not classify the public executioner as evil. We have a lot of gray area when we discussed, oh, there's someone I'm missing, there's someone I'm missing, there's someone I'm missing. Oh, I missed something. You know what? I didn't write it down, so I'm just going to go off the dome. No. What happened here? Oh. I think I have things mixed up. So the point is, I'm just going to go off the dome. And if you see me mess up, you'll see where this happened. The other one was the priest. I'm going to go to where he wrote it. So we had the doctor. We had the public executioner. Where's the priest? Oh, he has, imagine a person who mentally gets off on killing people, but keeps that to themselves. That's actually just very easy for me to say. That one is just straight up, yes, you're evil. You're evil. Where is the priest? Oh, priest is number 2. Okay. And I must have answered the public executioner after I wrote down priest because I missed it. I see what happened. And I'm sorry that I'm confusing you as we go on to this. So we're going to go to number 2, the priest, and I'm going to jump back to the executioner. So he asked me, what about the priest who kills murderers? And I say, this is a simple answer. This is basically a priest version of the Punisher. So for starters, it's not evil to the victims' families. Even the Bible says an eye for an eye. So in my opinion, a priest can be classified as evil depending on whose structure you want to apply. According to the law of the land, he would generally be classified as evil. A murderer is evil, which is exactly what he's doing. The problem is, many people in society would agree with the priest. They wouldn't define his behavior as immoral or bad. So in my opinion, if someone doesn't agree that the priest is evil, I'd have to respect that opinion. But if someone says that the priest is evil, well, I certainly respect that as well. It's reasonable to understand why a person would think he's evil, but it's also reasonable to understand that he could be evil. So it's understandable both ways. It all depends on which values you apply for bad behavior or immoral behavior. I'm just going to go off and say the priest is evil, but I'm not really convicted on that. Sometimes I'm going to have all these, oh yes, it depends. I'm going to have a lot of depends answers. So at the very least, I want to stand on business on some of them. If you're a priest and you go around murdering other murderers, I am going to say that you're evil because it's not your place to do that in society. And there's probably a screw loose in your brain as you're going around doing that. But if I'm on the jury, I'm not letting you go to jail. So I'm personally a tolerant of that type of evil because I think it does more good for society that you're getting these murderers off the street. And each murderer that's off the street is exponentially less people dying at the hands of these murderers. Families getting absolutely destroyed. So that is my opinion. He also asked about the public executioner. And I said, as it relates to the United States of America, I would not classify the public executioner as evil. We have a lot of gray area when we discuss the priest, but the public executioner has the full backing of the legal system. Plus all the arguments we had for the priest being approved. So if you can approve a priest for killing murderers, you can take the same arguments and you add it to the public executioner. So what I was saying is he has the benefit of all the arguments that the priest has being approved by all the fractions of society to kill these unredeemable murderers. Our system also avoids cruel and unusual punishment. And our execution system is deemed humane. So I would argue that it's not immoral, once again using the eye for an eye analogy from the Bible, which is something our society embraces until it doesn't. Until it doesn't. So we have states that don't have the death penalty. There's no death penalty. So I'm certain there are members of our society who would disagree. That's the thing with these topics. Anyone can argue otherwise when it comes to what's bad or immoral. But do you notice that I'm trying to operate within the confines of what I understand the dictionary to mean for evil? Not really my personal opinion. That's why I said the priest is immoral, even though I support his actions. Our society says you cannot do that. But we know that not all laws are just. So sometimes you have to go against that law. I understand that. But I'm just going to say you're evil because so much of our population agrees, right? And even though, not all laws are just, and the reason why that's important is just because the law says something, that doesn't mean you have to do it. The law says it, and when I'm looking at it, if we have a whole bunch of people just willy-nilly going against the law on this particular topic, when we don't have a epidemic of murderers getting away, if we start letting priests just do what they want, kill the right person or kill the wrong person, is what I meant to say, I think it's going to lead to a breakdown in society. We can't just have people killing people at their own discretion. I don't think that's a good thing for society. So we have to obviously get the murderers and punish them as the system is designed. And if you go around murdering murderers, we also have to get you, because that adds to anarchy. That's really what it comes down to for me personally. But I try to operate within the confines of the dictionary. Last, he's talking about the QB from Modica Magica. Now, I won't spoil it, okay? So, the QB is very similar to previous examples. He's an evil entity, especially by the standards of humans. So I say he's evil. He preys upon children, he's deceitful, and his actions purposely hold back information. You can define his behavior as immoral. But the word immoral has nuance. He doesn't understand such a concept and is being purely scientific in his approach to literally saving the universe and or preserving it. So he's not evil on this planet. In fact, there are many people with full understanding of the story that may not classify him as evil because he has I believe his actions result to a net positive. Which brings me to another subject. Sometimes immoral behavior is necessary. That was what I was saying about the priests. But that doesn't mean we should remove the label of immoral behavior. It's immoral, but damn it was necessary because I don't have a better way. And sometimes that's the answer. Damn, that was effed up, but there's no better way. So, if you notice, back to this original video, which I recommend you guys watch, right? When I get to the point of saying, it depends on what members of society want to say about about Modica Magica, I always understood that argument. People were arguing that, in certain societies, the kids wouldn't be evil, or evil varies depending on which society you're in, right? And I'm saying that is true, but the definition is still the same. So whether you're in the United States, whether you're in England, okay, whether you're in Canada, if you are speaking English and using the word evil as an English word, the definition is still the same regardless of your location. What matters or changes is when I say it's immoral or you say it's immoral, that can vary. You see? So don't just add things that have nothing to do with the definition to then say culturally the word evil varies from place to place. So with that in mind, let me add all these other changes. No, culturally it can vary. So use what your culture typically uses as a variance, but don't just insert your own stuff and change the definition of the word to match your feelings. This is what the word means. Anyways, that is my video, and it's kind of random. I try to be as organized as possible and not talk too long. It ended up being a 20-minute video, but I like that topic. I like the nuance. Once we get past the definition of evil, a lot of times we're going to have nuance. Okay? But age isn't excluding you. Even from what I saw, an AI can be evil. God dang, it doesn't even matter what your mental state is. You can still be evil. That doesn't mean we're going to punish you. If a 4-year-old goes out there on a shooting spree, that child did an evil act. Doesn't mean I'm going to incarcerate that child. But that action was evil, as far as this dictionary had to say. And I know it's hard. It's a tough pill to swallow. Because even after I said it, you heard the pause. I was like, a 4-year-old? I'm like, yeah, that's an evil 4-year-old. But we're not gonna put the child in jail. Can a child that's 4 years old commit an immoral act? It doesn't know that it's immoral, but the definition of the word doesn't say that you have to know that. That's why I had to pause, because every fiber in my being growing up in our society, we are conditioned to believe that children cannot be evil. But when I look back at the word and I scan it, I'm like, yep, this word isn't excluding a 4-year-old. As far as the definition goes, that is an evil 4-year-old. So, anyways, that is my 2 cents. I thank you for adding that, Resolute. If you guys made it to the end of this video, know that we have a schedule. We just updated the schedule. It looks really nice. You can click on it, go to the Patreon side. You can click on the schedule. It brings you right to our YouTube playlist. It'll lead, if you're on Patreon, it's going to bring you right to the Patreon list. So it's pretty dope. Thank you guys for supporting me. Until the next upload, you guys know who I am. I go by Yaboyrocklee. Peace. Guys, quick reality check for the collective, which is you, our audience. That's my nickname for the Rock family. We're hitting 1.5 million views on a monthly basis, and that's iconic. But 71% of you guys haven't subscribed yet. That's almost 1 million people who are watching, but not subscribed. Now, if just 10% of those viewers hit the subscribe button, we would add nearly 100,000 new members to the Rock family, the collective, overnight. That kind of growth would change everything. What? Better content, more variety, higher production value, all the things I read you guys ask for in the comment section. So subscribe. And if you really want to be part of Rock family, you can also turn on all notifications. Thank you.